joined. I got stationed at, never heard of that place in, ever, but I got stationed there. It was a great station to be at. The hunting is incredible. I don't know if you guys hunt, or I know you said something about hunting, but the hunting is incredible. The way that I came into this information that I was talking to you about, it was I was, the world. I got there in March of 2001. And it was business as usual. Go to the field, go to ranges, stuff like that.
Right.
Go to mortar firing, stuff like that. We're a big we were a heavy brigade. Our unit did not get deployed with our brigade to Iraq in 2003. Our first deployment was in 2005, and we went into Iraq, into Cuba. We came back. A very good friend of mine had gotten out of the Army at that point, but was still living in the area, and he joined a VFW. Well, luckily enough, he liked going down there and talking to the, what he called the old timers and old World War II vets and guys that were in Korea. And we met this one old gentleman. His name was, let's just call him Sneaky Pete. We're gonna call him Sneaky Pete.
All righty.
He was an MP. And we would go, we'll have a couple beers with them, just sit around, it was like old vets do, just sit around and talk and everything. But there was one night we had to work. We were working really late, and we decided to go to the VFW, and he was sauced, and he was gone. But he was an MP. And when he got there, if my memory, again, all this it's secondhand, is what he told me.
Right.
He got there like 4 days after the Germans surrendered in World War II. So what he had told me is, he told me that when they got told that, they were pretty much locked down. Still go by today and probably see these huge bunkers. They're huge bunkers. So I don't know if they were keeping parts of the atomic bomb or whatever in there. I have no clue whatsoever. In the desert in Roswell. Well, parts of those UFO that UFO was being stored at Fort, is what he told me. He was a guard on that gate. Came home.
Wow.
And then I had a hard time believing that. I wasn't a spring chicken, but I was like, really, come on.
Right.
Then I talked to him a couple days later. We went back to. We usually went back there on Thursdays and Friday nights, and have a couple beers and just sit around and talk to the old guys. And I was like, "Was that what you told me really true?" And he's like, "Absolutely true." He couldn't swear to it, but he thinks that that's where the autopsies took place as well.
Did he ever say why he thought this was the case? Is it information he was told, or maybe things he saw, or did he ever expand on that?
We really didn't get into a whole lot of that. He did say that he walked by. This is a 3-sided bunker built into a hill.
Okay.
So there's like earth put over the top of the 3 sides.
Right.
And he said he was walking by the door one day. There was it was like a big hangar door on the front, and there was a side door. Now, for about a week and a half, 10 days, whatever, I can't recall what he told me. But he would see guys in, like doctor coats, their long white jackets go in and come back out a couple hours later. A set would go in, a set would go in, a set would come out, a set would go in, a set would come out. But then he also said when he walked past that door that he could see burnt up pieces. It was almost like an NTF crash scene. There was pieces all over this hangar.
Wow. Okay. At times he could see all the way in.
Mm-hmm. Yes. When I guess they did their guard, whenever they would come off shift or go on shift, they would, meet in this one area, and he could walk by it, and every now and then that door would be open, and he would just roll his eyes in there. But then he said, if you tell anybody about this is top secret. This is, I don't know what security clearances were, back in the day like that. Because that had to be, well, that crash was like what, 40, 46, 47, something like that. My history isn't the greatest. It was, they always had this briefing before they went in, and you don't talk to anybody about this, is what they were told. So I don't know if it was if they had some kind of clearance. I don't know. He didn't really go into that.
It was 47, by the way.
47? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, but even then, how do you get it there? How do you get that there, in that time? Because there was no cargo planes like we have today. I mean, did they take it in on a truck? He didn't know. He had no idea.
Was he ever told? I assume he wasn't. What kind of facility or operations were going on, or I would assume it's just so compartmentalized that maybe he wasn't told. Just, hey, guard this. That's it. Or was he ever briefed on what the mission was beyond just guarding that area?
He said no one comes in or out without one of us escorting, is what he was told.
I see.
So one of us was maybe his chain of command or whatever. I can't really articulate on that because he didn't really go into all that. But I was just dumbfounded, because you see that on TV, all the time. Area 51 and the Roswell crash and all that. It's it was to me it was interesting, but it really didn't whatever at that time. Again, like now I'm a little older and I'm getting ready to retire. I'm gonna need something to do. So this might be my.
Yeah. What were you thinking when he was talking to you about this? As far as, did he seem just matter of fact? This is what happened. What was your take on how he presented that information to you?
It seemed, this is back in 2006. So, I've been blown up a couple times and my memory just ain't the way it used to be. But when you looked in his eyes,
yeah,
it was, man, it was real to him. It was real to him. Let me just say that. That stuff was to him. That stuff was there.
No, it really is the case, I think. And I think a lot of people have this ability where, if someone that you maybe don't know so well, if they're telling you something, I think for the most part, you can really get a sense, and maybe it's a sixth sense to have a feel for if they're telling the truth or not.
Right. And maybe he just wanted to get all that off his chest. He'd probably been, sitting on it for so long in his lifetime, I mean, there's still things I won't tell my wife that
Yeah.
I've done, that I've, experienced, that, it's not, that, and maybe in due time I will.
Right.
But, right now, no, there's no way. There's no way.
I definitely appreciate your service. I always make it a point to thank folks who sacrifice so much for this country. So when he told you this, and did he
Oh, yeah.
ever expand on what he initially told you about the experiences that he had?
Not really. He was just like, we couldn't go back there unless we were, going through guard shifts. So he said he would always try to, get a peek in there. Sometimes he did, sometimes he didn't, and then, he would see parts, you know, that were there at one point move to another section.
Like parts of a fuselage?
Yeah. The disc, he said it had to be a disc shape because all he saw was round edges. All
Okay.
he saw was round edges.
And that they were partially burned?
Yeah, there were some burned parts. There was he said there was a marking on one of them. He doesn't know if it was a scratch or if it meant something, but it was like really scraped in a weird angle, a weird way, so to speak.
So how close from what you can gather, are we talking just feet away or?
He really didn't expand on that. From what I gathered, from what I can guess, he'd walk past the door. There was no like little hallway going into a hangar or anything. It was like the door and then the hangar.
Okay, just right
So
there.
maybe like 20 to 30, 40 feet, maybe.
Did they switch him around or?
It seems like he was assigned there the entire time,
Yeah,
the way it seems to me.
right.
I didn't ask if there was like, how many hangars. There's like, when you go, you can still see them today.
Yeah.
But there's like 6 hangars there.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing.
And on the map, if you get a map of the post, and you have like all your little, your legend and everything, and it's off limits. It's all you're not going anywhere near it.
Is in a rural area. What part are we talking about?
It's a very rural area. The closest town you have is, but it's out in the middle of nowhere.
Oh, okay. Had you heard of other stories since specific to Fort in regards to unexplained technology?
You see some stuff up in the air, but you don't know if it's man made. I could probably tell you that's it's unidentified. I don't know if like here at Fort where I'm at. You need to block that out too, please.
Absolutely.
Um, and there's some weird crap going on over here. That's a whole nother show. But it's weird because it's a base, and we have the airport, and it's also right in the approach and departure vector of. But they shoot during the day from certain times, and then it's I guess whenever a flight comes in, they stop shooting. I don't know how that works. I'm not an air traffic controller or anything.
Yeah.
But when the shooting stops, there's a plane getting ready is either passing through or getting ready to land it.
Okay.
But yeah, like at night when you're out there in the field,
Uh-huh.
you'll see like this. We have the mountains right behind us.
Yes.
And man, it's like you'll see something like flash across the sky, stop. It will. There'll be a lot. You got to be under nods. You got to be under night vision to see this. And you'll see something flashing. Lift your nods up. You won't see anything. Put them back down. You see it flashing again, and then it will elevate, or it's weird. It's weird. I don't know. I can't explain it. I just can't explain it. Is it man-made? Possibly. I don't know. Is it a, like some kind of weird drone that we're working on? I have no clue. No clue whatsoever.
How fast does this move, would you say? I mean, are we just zipping across the sky, or is it more stationary, or like
You would catch it, zip across your nods, and you'd be like, "Whoa, what's that?" And you kind of fixate on it, and there it is. There it is. It stays there for a couple seconds, maybe 2, 3, 4 seconds. But it seems like it seems like 15, 20 seconds. And then it just like bang, it's gone.
you ever see more than one at one time, or typically just a single?
I've seen one at one time. There's I have a friend of mine that also has a Bigfoot encounter here on post. That's another story.
Right, right.
But you wake up in the morning and my soldiers come to me. He's like, man, I've seen some weird stuff up there. And you ask him about it, and it's like this thing was like it would like just like I explained, it would like scream over really fast, like, and then it would like he said it didn't look like it would ever bank, like it did a turn and did like I call it a racetrack. It did
Yeah.
like circles, kind of like circles over certain points.
Now, for those who may not know about nods, can you?
Yeah, it's a night observation devices. It's basically you see green and black at night, and it looks like you're looking in the day, except it's green and black. Now, there's also a filter on there where you can flip that switch, and it gives you an infrared floodlight, so you can see. Well, they kind of gather all the. It kind of gathers all the lights from the stars into
Yes.
that monocular or binocular, whichever one you have, and transforms all that into an image. So you can see there's no depth perception on it whatsoever, but you can see what you're getting ready to either engage or detain. Excuse me. And then you have the advantage. That's why the military uses them.
What's been the protocol, or what have you been told, or do you know of anyone that has seen similar things like what you described? Has it been discussed on to tell, not to tell, report? Have you been ever briefed on what these things are?
No, never. I don't know if anybody said anything. I'm sure it's not going to say anything.
Right.
Um, I do know that the soldier that did see that squatch was told, you didn't see anything. You saw nothing. Then the fish and game officer was in the general's office when this was told to him. I mean, it was all the way up at Africa. That's what we call it. So
Okay.
that's what he was told. He's like, I don't even want to talk about it. You try to approach him now. You don't want to talk about it. He won't even talk about it to you.
Uh, do you have details on that at a later date you would share?
I have a lot of details on that.
Okay. So
I
we'll.
was he was actually one of my soldiers.
Okay.
So I do have a lot of detail on that. And it's man, I would have peed my pants. I would have peed my pants.
Let me ask you this, and you mentioned, I'm sure with what you've seen, it's a fascinating thing once you see something that you really no one can explain to want to know more. From your take on it, do you feel like there's any connection to the cryptids and the unexplained things that we see in the sky, orbs, crafts? You think there's any connection in your opinion?
Yeah, absolutely. This universe is too small for just us to be in existence. There's things out there in the woods that we can't explain. I would love to see an explanation of it.
Yeah.
Um, I would love. I'm not saying go shoot one or shoot something like that or shoot an extraterrestrial or whatever, but for science to accept it, you need a body on slab.
Yeah.
Um, if we can like look each other in the eye and be like, hey, I'm going to go this way, you go that way, we're good. I'm going to take that route because I don't ever want to shoot anything ever again. Really don't. If I have to, I will. If I have to, I will. I always go, I always go out protected. I always go out armed.
Do you hunt?
I used to. I used to. I used to turkey hunt it. Couldn't go anywhere without kicking a turkey. So I would tag out. I would tag out the first day.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, no, not anymore. Not after my deployments. Not after.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of done with that.
Yeah, I totally understand. It's so interesting how I was thinking this the other day, where the more we understand about our universe, about things in general, the more we don't understand or realize that we don't understand. It's if you would have told me, Bigfoot UFO 5+, 10+ years ago, even though I had an experience as a kid, I don't know why. Maybe I pushed that out of my mind because it was so frightening that I never really thought about it for years
Mhm.
until my brother Lane had his experience with the Squatch on the North Canadian River.
Oh,
And
wow, that's
yeah, it was pretty terrifying. And he basically had one flank him and was just feet away from it. He was staring right at it. Uh,
wow.
and he was with a buddy. They had been catfishing, so they had the back of the truck toward the river, and they were in the cab. They had just pulled in, kind of set up, and Lane saw something probably about 200 yards away. Just kind of, he said it almost like it was ghostly. It's just floating real quick, but
Mhm.
kept his eye on it, and it went into the timber line. And anyway, he heard the next thing within a few minutes. He heard it flanking him through the woods, and it was just cracking limb, boom, boom. And his buddy, luckily, he was with someone there. His buddy's like, "Let's get out of here." You're like, "No, I want to know what this is." So this thing makes its way up alongside the river behind their truck, and they're still parked.
Oh.
They have the engines off, but anyway, Lane had a 357.
Mhm.
He heard whatever it was stop right at the wood line, so he couldn't really see it. And then it stepped
Right.
out, and he said, "Who you are? Who are you?" Is cussing at it like, "I'm going to blow blankety blank," and it didn't.
Mhm.
It didn't say anything. He just heard it heavy breathing. And
Mhm.
anyway, and his buddy started it up and floored it, and they were, getting out of there, and it chased them, and luckily that was the end of it. But that's what. And Lane didn't even tell Lance and I that story for about 5 years.
Wow. It just intrigues me now. I even think about what if I shoot a Bigfoot or an alien or whatever? What if I get charged for murder for that? What are the repercussions of an action such as that? It's a very delicate subject.
And I think if that happened, I think you'd be on an island. I don't think there'd be a lot of support to get you out of that hole. And
Right.
and I think that folks who say, "Well, I'm going to prove Bigfoot exists," I think that's a lost cause. That's the wrong approach because really to people that's seen Bigfoot, I mean, it's not a question of if they exist. I saw three. My brother, he's seen one, and of course he was with me when we saw the three. Um, and then even Lance was telling me today of what he thinks he saw one. And the first thing that we've always done is not jump to, oh, that's a Bigfoot or that's an alien or that's got to be that. We try to be logical. Okay, what are the logical
Mhm.
explanations here? And then it's only at the end that you start, after you've exhausted all the other options.
I have a big old whiteboard in my uh, my spare bedroom, and I write things down all the time. I get up in the middle of the night because one, I can't sleep, and two, it's kind of consuming me a little bit. I
Yeah.
would say I would like to start looking for the answers. I have a good baseline I could probably start, but I would rather put myself with somebody giving me advice on this is what you need to look for. I would probably walk up on a track and never even see it.
Yeah. Well, we've been blessed with the channel that we started a few years ago. It's interesting when you talk to so many people that don't talk to each other. There's certain themes you pick up about their experiences, and you're like, wait a minute, I remember when I talked to this person, they experienced that or saw that, and there are some common themes other people talk about, like, some people sometimes if they have a face-to-face encounter, if we're talking about cryptids, of feeling like they're somewhat hypnotized, or the infrasound where people maybe they get a headache, nausea, a little dizziness. These abilities, when we're talking about aliens, extraterrestrials, I think it's a valid argument to make that, well, cryptids, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, they have all these abilities that are well beyond man, that it's reasonable to think that it is supernatural or technology beyond what we can imagine if there is a connection. At the same time, you could make the argument, well, if you were forced to live in the woods, you'd have to run a little faster and conceal a little better to survive just by default. I'm more familiar with the Sasquatch, but uh,
Mhm.
there's so much more to learn, obviously, and no one's an expert, right? I used to watch a YouTube channel that was called the UFO Hunter, and he was a guy out of Southeast Oklahoma somewhere, and he would never say what city, but he would post video of his infrared that he
Mhm.
point up to the sky, and the footage, my jaw was dropping. I could not believe what he was showing on his channel was UFOs, basically, where there'd be one, and then all of a sudden there'd be three in formation, and then there'd be six, and then they make a V, and then they'd go linear, and then they would move at 90 degrees. And he's obviously an amateur filming this. It's like crazy the maneuvers, these things he was showing. And he probably posted, I'm guessing, maybe 10 videos. And then all of a sudden, I didn't see him anymore. Uh,
Huh.
he didn't post.
Uh-huh.
His videos were kept up. And then I quit following him. And then, like a year later, I thought, I'm going to check that out. All his videos were gone. And people were making comments like, so and so passed away. And then he made a comment. I saw him make a comment that, no, I'm still here, but all that stuff I showed you, that's just of the devil. That's all he said. And so I'm sure he got talked to or met with.
Yeah,
Uh,
probably.
but
Because I've seen similar stuff like that in Iraq, and I've chalked it up to like drones, planes, Air Force is over for close air support for something going on. It's it's kind of you look up there and it's kind of weird.
yeah,
It's just wow.
and I want to chat with you more if that's okay with you. Uh,
Absolutely.
and But what I'll do is maybe ask you one more question, and we'll just wrap it up. But I appreciate it. Anything else you want to add specific to the gentleman that mentioned about when he was a guard, what he saw with the fuselage and
I swear, when you looked into his eyes and he was telling you this story, man, to him it was real. To him it was real. He's like, wow. It's like You just walk past something, you're like, what did I just see? That was the look on his face.
And did he tell you, or was it you and others in a group, or did he pull you aside, or how did that play out?
It was me. It was me because I always liked his stories. I always loved talking to him. He reminded me of, he was kind of like kind of reminded me of my uncle.
Yeah.
You know, I have an uncle named Pete, and that's why I called him Sneaky Pete.
Okay.
So yeah, that's where he got his nickname from. That's not his real name, but that's what we're gonna call him here on the show.
Absolutely. Well, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. I think there's definitely a reason why we're dripped this information, and it seems like at a faster pace with like the TikTok video and
Mhm.
how the release and the acknowledgement that the U.S. government's actually been studying this for some time when they had denied it for so many years. It's important for us to talk about these things, especially when it comes from someone, that gentleman, at the end of his life felt the need to get that off his chest. And I think that's extremely important because I think he realizes that it's important for folks to know that information and not just keep it to himself. Uh,
Right. Right. Well, you know what? After this, I'm gonna try to look him up. 2020 now, so it's been a while. So I don't even know if he's passed or.
if he was still alive, anything further that he knew of, I think that would be very valuable. And obviously, I'm not going to share your name, but I definitely want to follow back up with you on the other things that you'd like to share. I appreciate you reaching out with the. I try to post those things I post on Instagram. Those are actual pictures that was sent to me by people.
Wow.
As far as the squash prints, and then a lot of the others, I think you would be interested, and we can talk about this at a later date. But you notice in one picture, it's stacked boulders. The boulders are flat on the surface. Like,
You know what? I went on a hike in Georgia, and I saw that, but there was like 5 or 6 stacks, all different sizes. It's like, wow. I thought it was hikers. This wasn't even when I was like interested in the subject, but it was just that just for some reason just lays out in my mind right now since you said that.
yeah, that's a neat area where we found that. And my dad seems to think it was a Spanish fort.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because the Spanish did settle forts in Oklahoma. But we're gonna take our metal detector out there, see if there's any stashed gold.
Yeah, you might find some gold.
Yeah, we might find gold right under all the. Those boulders are gigantic, though. I don't know how those were stacked like that. We couldn't find any markings on them or anything, but it's a very neat place. Well, hey, man, I'll cut you loose. I appreciate it tremendously. We'll, like I said, get together again, chat up some more stuff here in the next few weeks. So,
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate you contacting me back.
absolutely. Take care, bud.
All right, you too, brother.
All right, man.
All right,
All right,
bye
bye-bye.
bye.